Hey guys, it's Jay Calderon with 12rounder.com, and I'm here to give you rule number 2 for all boxing fans to remember, just my personal take on what should be sort of rules of thumb for the sport. The very first one is very simple. If you notice a sudden change in the confidence of a fighter heading into a fight, to me, that has always seemed to be, with some exceptions of course, that always seems to be the worst possible thing for that fighter. You should never pick that fighter to win. It almost seems like it's never going to work out for them. The most recent example of that would be Shawn Porter when he took on Kell Brook. Shawn Porter's a likable, nice guy, and he's still a likable, nice guy. There's nothing that's changed in that respect yet. Prior to the Devin Alexander fight, he was confident, but it was understandable. You got to be confident heading into your first fight, and he was respectful of Paulie Malignaggi when they were going into their fight. Yet he goes into the Kell Brook fight and he's saying everything from he's an ordinary fighter, there's nothing special, I don't fear him, it's showtime, he has his chant going, he has his, karate headband on for some reason now. He had a bunch of, all of this stuff just seemed to add up to someone who, to me, always looks like these sort of fighters that suddenly become so confident in themselves. It always seems like they're trying to convince themselves of something. And maybe that's not the case with Porter. But historically, it just seems to be the case with fighters that are bound to lose. I mean, you could look at virtually any Mayweather opponent. All the Mayweather opponents that have ever faced him are usually normal, quiet guys prior to facing Mayweather. And then all of a sudden, they get in the ring with Mayweather right before they get into the ring with Mayweather, actually. During the promotional run, you have guys like Victor Ortiz or Robert Guerrero or, again, pretty much anyone that Mayweather's faced, all of a sudden becoming these very arrogant, hyperbolic fighters that just seem so interested in convincing themselves and everyone else that they're going to get the job done. And then time and time again, they don't. You look at another great example would be Ortiz when he took on Luis Collazo. He was almost disrespectful of Collazo. And that didn't work out so well for him either. Then you can take the flip side of this equation. You can look at a guy like Marcos Maidana, right before he faced someone like Broner, or Mayweather for that matter. Now, again, he lost the Mayweather fight, and most people would say it was close at best, but he probably didn't do just enough to win. That being said, he was very confident, but quiet about it. Didn't change his demeanor, didn't get worked up with all the antics and everything like that. He was just calm about things. He goes into that ring believing in himself, not trying to convince you to believe in him, but believing in himself, and he gives Mayweather what many regard as his hardest test to date, certainly within the last 5-6 years. Against Broner, same thing. Broner's his usual self. That you can't necessarily fault someone for being their usual selves. If you're always a very braggadocious guy, then more power to you. But Maidana's calm, cool, collected, gets in that ring, does the job. Again, it's a rule of thumb. There are plenty of exceptions where a fighter just sort of came out of pocket, started talking a lot of mess, and backed it up. But for the most part, a very simple rule of thumb in this game we call boxing: if a fighter suddenly becomes the most confident guy in the world, the reason for it is because he didn't necessarily think, in the first place, that he was going to win that fight. Because if he did, it would have been just another fight for him. But for him to have to constantly say that over and over again and convince you that it's going to be that easy, there's usually going to be a problem. Another great example would be Gary Russell versus Vasyl Lomachenko. Russell, great fighter, still has a tremendous future ahead of him so far as I'm concerned. But he's always been a very quiet-spoken, mild-mannered fighter. He fights Lomachenko and says he's still an amateur, he has no chance. He even claimed it was going to be one of his easier fights. Ends up being the first loss of his own career. At the end of the day, if you believe in yourself before you got to this fight, if you believed in yourself getting to this fight, then nothing should change in your demeanor when you're telling people that you still believe in yourself. That change to me means something about your belief might just be wavering. So, again, tell me what you think about the rule, of course. Give me some of your examples when this might have happened in the past. Tell me what you think. I'd love to hear. If you disagree, you'll be wrong, of course, but I'd love to hear it nonetheless. And be sure to leave that in the comments section. And, of course, hit me up on Twitter at 12rounder Boxing. Like, comment, share, all that great stuff, and be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and visit 12rounder.com. Until next time, enjoy the fights.